Hey folks, if you want to stay ahead of the weather and keep up with all things SkyAlert USA, don't forget to follow us. Support us by subscribing, liking and commenting. Your feedback really helps us bring you more updates like this one. SkyAlert USA Weather Update, February 9th, 2026. Breaking weather alert. Extreme conditions across North America. Good evening, weather watchers. This is your comprehensive weather briefing for February 9th, 2026, covering the critical weather situations unfolding across the United States and Canada. We're tracking multiple dangerous weather systems that demand your immediate attention. Critical Situation Overview. As we enter the second week of February 2026, North America is experiencing one of the most intense winter weather patterns in recent years. From the Pacific coast to the Atlantic seaboard, millions of Americans and Canadians are facing life-threatening conditions, including media, US and Canada map with weather warnings, aerial of snowstorm across multiple states, people braving winter storm in different regions, extreme cold, heavy snow, flooding rains, and dangerous wind chills. The polar vortex continues to grip the eastern half of the continent, while the west coast battles relentless atmospheric rivers, bringing catastrophic flooding. Pacific Northwest and Northern Rockies. Heavy snow and mountain passes closed. A powerful shortwave trough is crossing the Pacific Northwest and Northern Rockies today, bringing moderate to heavy snowfall from Northern California through Oregon and western Montana. Snow levels, initially around 7,000 feet over Northern California through Idaho and southern Montana, are rapidly dropping to around 4,000 feet tonight as height falls from the trough axis intensify. The most significant impacts are occurring in the mountain passes, where travel has become extremely dangerous or impossible. Donner Pass in California faces potential closure as feet of snow accumulate in the high country. The Sierra Nevada mountains are experiencing snow accumulation rates that could lead to major travel disruptions throughout the week. For travelers in this region, conditions are deteriorating rapidly. Snow rates are stretching from far northern California through Oregon and western Montana, with the gradient showing 4,000-foot snow levels just a couple hundred miles north. Road crews are working around the clock, but the intensity of this system is overwhelming their efforts. If you're planning to travel through these areas, seriously reconsider your plans or prepare for extended delays. California continues to battle one of the most severe flooding events in recent memory. The Golden State has been hammered by back-to-back atmospheric rivers since late December, with no significant relief in sight. Today's storm system is bringing another round of torrential rainfall that threatens to push already saturated ground beyond its limits. The National Weather Service has issued flood watches across much of California, from the northern coast down through the Central Valley and into Southern California. Rainfall totals of 2 to 4 inches are forecast along much of the California coast north of Los Angeles, with locally higher amounts expected. The critical concern is the lower west-facing slopes of the northern Sierra Nevada, where 4 to 8 inches of rain could fall, with localized amounts reaching 12 inches. The Sacramento Valley and San Francisco Bay Area remain under flood watches, with heavy rain creating dangerous conditions. The recent storm brought record-breaking king tides to the Bay Area, with water levels reaching 2.5 feet above normal, a level not recorded since 1998. These king tides, caused by the full moon's gravitational pull combined with the Earth's distance from both the sun and moon, created unprecedented coastal flooding when they coincided with the storm surge. Urban flooding has become a critical issue across multiple California cities. San Diego experienced historic rainfall on New Year's Day, with over 2 inches falling in a single day, ranking among the 15 rainiest days on record. The San Diego River peaked at 12.75 feet, reaching the upper end of minor flood stage. Multiple water rescues were necessary as vehicles became trapped in floodwaters throughout Mission Valley. The human cost of these storms is tragic. At least one person has died after being swept into Maria Ignacio Creek in Santa Barbara County during flooding conditions. The Santa Barbara County Sheriff's Office found the victim deceased approximately 2 hours after the initial emergency call. This tragedy underscores the deadly serious nature of these flood conditions. Highway closures have become widespread. Highway 2 near Wrightwood was washed out due to flooding and debris flows, stranding residents in the mountain community. San Bernardino County firefighters conducted multiple rescues of people trapped in vehicles as mud and debris rushed down roads. These debris flows are particularly dangerous in areas recently scorched by wildfires, where the lack of vegetation allows rapid runoff and mudslides. Southern California faces a particularly acute crisis. The region, still recovering from devastating wildfires earlier in the season, now battles flooding and debris flows. Evacuation orders have been issued for communities near burn-scar areas, including zones affected by the airport fire in Orange County and the Eaton fire zone. Los Angeles County officials delivered approximately 380 evacuation orders to especially vulnerable homes. The combination of saturated soil, steep terrain, and recent fire damage creates a perfect storm for catastrophic mudslides and debris flows. Residents report mud breaching K-rails and threatening homes that survived the fires. The California Highway Patrol has warned motorists about widespread roadway flooding. Interstate 5 experienced flooding in the Del Mar area, while numerous local roads became impassable. The Santa Barbara Airport grounded all commercial flights due to flooding on the airfield, stranding travelers during what should have been the tail end of the holiday season. Power outages have affected over 100,000 customers across California at various points during this storm sequence. Pacific Gas and Electric reported damage to power poles from high winds and falling trees, with restoration efforts hampered by ongoing dangerous conditions. The extended forecast for California offers little hope for immediate relief. A storm system during the second week of February threatens to break the brief dry period some areas have experienced. Troughing diving down the west coast will eventually send southern stream energy into the southwest around Friday, bringing an expanding area of precipitation, potentially moderate to locally heavy, to the south-central United States by the weekend. The AIFS model shows signals for heavy rainfall across the sensitive terrain of Southern California, indicating a continued low-end flood risk. While forecasters are monitoring the situation before issuing marginal risk declarations, residents should prepare for the possibility of renewed flooding threats late this week and into next weekend. Eastern United States. Polar vortex brings life-threatening cold. While the west battles water, the east battles ice and, well, brutal cold. The polar vortex has shifted southward, allowing Arctic air to flood across the eastern half of the United States. This isn't just your typical winter cold. These are dangerous, life-threatening conditions that honestly will persist through at least the middle of February. Extreme cold warnings and wind chill alerts. The National Weather Service has issued extreme cold warnings for vast areas of the eastern United States. From the mid-Atlantic through New England, wind chill values are plummeting to -10 to -20 degrees Fahrenheit, with values as low as -25 expected across the Poconos. The combination of very cold air temperatures and strong winds creates these dangerous wind chill conditions. In the Philadelphia and Mount Holly region, northwest winds are increasing to 20 to 35 miles per hour, with gusts of 40 to 60 miles per hour expected. These conditions create scattered power outages and, tree damage, further complicating an already dangerous situation. A high wind warning is in effect for coastal southern New Jersey southward into the Delmarva Peninsula, with a wind advisory covering the southern Poconos, southeast Pennsylvania, and much of New Jersey. The winds will gradually diminish late Saturday night through Sunday, but the extreme cold will persist. The polar vortex disruption. Meteorologists are monitoring a potential polar vortex disruption in early February that could provide an extra boost to the cold in the eastern United States about 7 to 10 days from now. Sudden warming high up in the stratosphere tends to set off a polar vortex displacement. This displacement may add more fury to storms prior to the middle of the month and then deliver an even more intense punch of cold that follows those storms. The frequent Arctic outbreaks in the coming weeks represent a continuation of the pattern that began around the middle of January. Monthly temperatures are expected to be well below the historical average for February over much of the eastern half of the United States. While there will be occasional days where frigid conditions back off slightly thanks to strengthening February sunshine, any warming trend will likely be brief. Heating costs and energy demands, folks. This persistent cold is having a significant impact on energy demands and heating costs. The polar vortex, it keeps the freezer door wide open, forcing hundreds of millions of people to reach for their thermostats and add layers of clothing. Heating bills are soaring as furnaces work overtime to combat the relentless cold. Energy companies are urging conservation during peak demand periods, though, I gotta say, maintaining safe indoor temperatures remains the top priority. The extended duration of this cold snap means there's no quick end to these elevated energy costs. Winter storms and snow across the heartland. The eastern cold is being punctuated by waves of winter storms. The ongoing pattern is trending stormier, with areas of snow and ice potentially threatening large portions of the plains, Mississippi Valley, Appalachians, and Atlantic seaboard in the coming weeks. Details regarding how these trough and low-pressure systems evolve remain highly uncertain, and these differences will play a major role in sensible weather impacts. Model guidance shows the greatest source of uncertainty continuing with West Coast troughing by mid to late week, and how and when that energy moves eastward across the country. Winter weather advisories and warnings. Winter weather advisories remain in effect across portions of the upper Midwest, where areas of blowing snow combine with winds gusting as high as 35 miles per hour. Counties in Minnesota, including Kitson, Norman, West Marshall and West Polk, are experiencing drifting snow and reduced visibility in open country, at times dropping to half a mile. The North Carolina coast dealt with winter weather earlier this week, with winter storm warnings cancelled, but winter weather advisories extended as snow accumulations remained in place. Below freezing temperatures and afternoon sunshine created icy conditions that persisted even after snowfall ended. Canada. Brutal winter conditions continue. Our northern neighbours in Canada are experiencing similarly harsh winter conditions. The Great White North is really living up to its name this February, with very cold temperatures and significant snowfall across most of the country. Temperature extremes across Canada. Canada's average temperatures at the beginning of February range from -3.3 degrees Celsius nationwide, with significant regional variations. Eastern Canada, including Ontario and Quebec, faces particularly harsh conditions. Toronto is experiencing typical February cold, with temperatures ranging from -8 to -10 degrees Celsius, with wind chills making it feel even colder. The city's forecast for February 9th shows temperatures around -8 degrees Celsius, with south winds around 10 miles per hour. Montreal and cities throughout Quebec province are characterized by temperatures sometimes reaching below -12 degrees Celsius. Snowfall is abundant compared to Toronto, though complemented by more sunny weather throughout February. Ottawa faces frigid conditions with mean temperatures around -4 degrees Celsius during the day, falling to -15 degrees Celsius at night. The climate is, more than very fresh in meteorological terms, essentially dangerously cold without proper preparation. Western Canada, particularly Alberta cities like Calgary, sees temperatures varying from -9 to -5 degrees Celsius. Despite the cold, sunshine appears every other day, providing some psychological relief from the winter gloom. Mild pattern developing, February 9th to 14th. Interestingly, a milder pattern is developing from February 9th through 14th across parts of southern Ontario. This system brings a mix of rain and snow along with warmer daytime temperatures, a brief respite from the extreme cold. However, between February 15th and 17th, rain and snow will return to eastern areas, with snowstorms possible farther west under milder air. Pacific Canada, well, it's a different story altogether. Western Canada, especially British Columbia and Vancouver, experiences conditions that are, markedly different from the rest of the country. The Pacific Ocean's influence brings milder winter weather to the region. Vancouver's temperatures rarely dip below 0 degrees Celsius, and the forecast is calling for around 9 degrees, which is pretty close to the historical average. But Vancouver faces its own set of challenges, mostly with significant rainfall. The city usually gets about 22 rainy days in February, with a total rainfall of 242.3 millimeters. Light snow can happen, with an average of 5 snowy days, but accumulations are generally minimal compared to what folks in eastern Canada deal with. Snowfall across Canada is really something this February. The country typically sees an average of 37.358 centimeters of snow during the month, and that happens over about 20 days. Toronto is expecting moderate snowfall, while northern regions and the mountainous areas of British Columbia can expect a whole lot more. The forecast is showing heavy snowfall expected throughout February, with 20 snowy days on the horizon. This snow, when you add it to the brutal cold, creates some pretty hazardous travel conditions across much of the country. Now, Hawaii, not on the mainland, but still worth mentioning, is facing an unexpected flooding crisis. A slow-moving cold front is stirring up unsettled weather through the weekend and into early next week, bringing potential hazards like heavy to excessive rainfall, strengthening winds, and thunderstorms. The National Weather Service Weather Prediction Center has put out specific warnings about windy conditions and the potential for flooding rainfall along and near that nearly stationary front. The passage of an upper-level disturbance to the south of the islands is supporting an expansion of the rainfall threat before high pressure builds up to the north. This is really unusual weather for Hawaii and honestly represents a significant threat to areas that just aren't typically prepared for these kinds of conditions. All right, let's get into the 3-day forecast. Here's what you can expect. Day 1, that's February 9th, 2026. The Pacific Northwest, well, it just keeps getting hammered with heavy mountain snow, and honestly, travel's going to be tough up there. Meanwhile, California is still wrestling with flood threats. More heavy rain is on the way. Over in the eastern United States, the extreme cold just won't quit, and those wind chills are downright dangerous. Southern Ontario, you'll start to notice things getting a bit milder, but you'll see a messy mix of precipitation. Now, moving on to Day 2, February 10th. California might catch a short break from the worst of the rain, but scattered showers are still in play. The Sierra, Nevada and Cascades, well, snow's not letting up just yet. The eastern cold hangs around, and honestly, another blast of Arctic air could be on the table. Winter storm chances are ticking up for the central United States as energy starts shifting out of that western trough. Then, Day 3, February 11th. Western troughing is going to send some southern stream energy into the southwest. Precipitation spreads out across the south-central United States, and it could be moderate to, locally heavy. The eastern United States will see temperatures inch up a bit, but they'll still be below normal. And, wouldn't you know it, another system is heading for the Pacific Northwest, which means California could see another round of wet weather later in the week. Now, let's talk about catastrophic warnings and some important safety information. Several regions are facing especially dangerous conditions that really deserve your attention. First, flood zones. If you live in or near flood-prone areas in California, you need to have an evacuation plan ready. Keep an eye on local emergency alerts at all times. Never, ever drive through flooded roads. Turn around, don't drown. Just 6 inches of moving water can knock you off your feet, and 12 inches can carry away a small car. Next, extreme cold zones. If you're in areas under extreme cold warnings, limit your time outdoors. Frostbite can set in within minutes on exposed skin at these temperatures. Make sure your home heating system is working properly. Check in on elderly neighbors and anyone who might not have enough heat. And don't forget to bring pets indoors. For those near burn scar areas in California, you're looking at a serious debris flow risk. Without vegetation, water moves fast and mudslides can happen in a hurry. If you get an evacuation order, follow it right away. Your life depends on it. Mountain travelers, listen up. Don't try to cross mountain passes right now unless you have the right equipment, plenty of supplies, and you've checked the latest road conditions. A lot of folks have gotten stranded this season, and rescues get riskier as the weather gets worse. Finally, coastal areas. King tides mixed with storm surge are causing flooding way past the usual high tide lines. If you're along the coast, move your vehicles to higher ground and get ready for possible flooding in low-lying spots. Now, let's zoom out a bit and talk about the broader pattern, specifically La Niña's influence. This winter's wild weather is being shaped by La Niña conditions, which are still holding on across the central and eastern equatorial Pacific Ocean. La Niña is a little more likely than not to stick around through December, January and February, but honestly, it's expected to stay pretty weak, with a shift to ENSO-neutral conditions likely by early spring of 2026. Now, a weak La Niña doesn't usually bring the typical winter impacts, but the signals are still showing up in our forecast guidance. This slow-moving La Niña is what's been setting up the stormy pattern along the west coast and keeping the eastern United States stuck in the cold. Climate context and records. So, California's current wet pattern follows a mostly dry autumn, creating, some real whiplash conditions. The wettest holiday season in years has brought both relief from drought concerns and, unfortunately, devastating flooding. Multiple locations have recorded top 15 rainfall events, with some areas experiencing their wettest January on record. The eastern cold, while severe, fits within the range of polar vortex disruptions we've seen in past winters. However, the duration and intensity of this particular event are, pretty noteworthy. Multiple locations are experiencing their coldest February temperatures in 5 to 10 years. Looking further ahead, mid to late February, extended forecasts suggest the active weather pattern will continue through at least mid-February. A second trough and upper low will amplify and drop south along the west coast by next weekend. This suggests California's flooding concerns will extend well into the month. For the eastern United States, the cold pattern may begin to moderate during weeks 2 and 3 of February, but temperatures will likely remain below normal through the end of the month. The greatest uncertainty continues to be with West Coast troughing and how and when that energy moves eastward across the country. Preparation and safety recommendations. Given these ongoing severe weather threats, SkyAlert USA recommends 1. Stay informed through multiple sources. Monitor NOAA weather radio, local news and weather apps. Sign up for emergency alerts through your local National Weather Service office. 2. Prepare emergency kits. Include flashlights, batteries, non-perishable food, water, medications, and important documents. Have supplies for at least 72 hours. 3. Winterize your home and vehicle. Ensure heating systems work properly, pipes are insulated against freezing, and your car has emergency supplies, including blankets, food, water, and a full gas tank. 4. Create a communication plan with family members. Ensure everyone knows how to contact each other if separated during an emergency. 5. Check on vulnerable neighbors, particularly elderly individuals and those with special needs. Final thoughts. February 9th, 2026 marks another day in what's shaping up to be one of the most challenging winter weather patterns in recent American and Canadian history. From catastrophic flooding on the west coast to life-threatening cold in the east, from heavy mountain snows in the northwest to severe winter storms in the heartland, this is a coast-to-coast weather emergency. The next 72 hours will be critical across multiple regions. California residents must remain vigilant for additional flooding and debris flows. Eastern residents must protect themselves and their property from extreme cold and winter storms. Mountain travelers must recognize that conditions are beyond the capability of typical winter travel preparations. This is not the time for complacency. These are dangerous, dynamic weather situations that demand your attention and respect. Follow all warnings and advisories from the National Weather Service and local emergency management. Your safety and the safety of your loved ones depends on taking these threats seriously. Stay weather aware, stay safe, and stay tuned to SkyAlert USA for continuous updates as these situations develop. This is weather that matters, and we'll keep you informed every step of the way. Stay safe out there, weather watchers. This has been your comprehensive weather briefing for February 9th, 2026. Until